Hi there, everyone. My name is Nitesh, and today we have been joined by one of the very amazing people in the Kubernetes community, Madhav and Priyanka, who are the technical leads for the SIG contribute experience. For all the folks who are new to this channel and do not know what is SIG contribute experience or who do not have any idea of what Kubernetes project is, so Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool and it has a wide variety of projects underneath as well, which is a CNCF graduated project. And anyone who tries to get involved within the Kubernetes community often feel intimidated or overwhelmed by its nature, with meetings happening around and all of the stuff. As a contributor, you generally get this thing of being overwhelmed. Uh, Anyone who has even got started with the Kubernetes community, if you ask them more often what are the correct ways of getting involved within the Kubernetes, you will be hearing two SIGs mostly often. First one is SIG docs, and the second one is SIG contributor experience, right? And today we have been joined by Madhav and Priyanka, who are the technical leads for the SIG contributor experience. So we'll be taking a look at a bunch of things. What exactly is SIG contributor experience? What role it generally offers in the Kubernetes community? How can you get involved? And bunch of other things as well. So we'll be starting with an introduction right now. We'll be starting with Priyanka and then over to Madhav. Priyanka, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, sure. Hello everyone. My name is Priyanka Saggu. I work at SUSE as a Kubernetes integration engineer, and as you introduced already, I am also one of the technical leads for SIG contributor experience. Um, Apart from that, I've also been involved in SIG release area for a while back in the SIG release team from cycles 1.23 to 127 in different roles as shadow lead and release lead shadow twice. Yep.
That's awesome. Over to you, Madhav.
Yeah, hi. My name is Madhav Jivrajani. I work at VMware. I'm part of the open source engineering team at VMware. So we work on the Kubernetes project. In the community, I'm one of the tech leads of SIG contributor experience along with Priyanka. I'm also one of the GitHub admins of the Kubernetes project. And apart from that, I help maintain a few other aspects of the Kubernetes project itself. And I contribute to areas of API machinery, architecture, scalability, and um, of course, contributor experience. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I thought most of the times you were involved within the SIG contributor experience. I also remember one thing that you mentioned one previously, that when you try to get involved within the Kubernetes community, you try to understand its code base, and it was overwhelming at the very first. And you attended the meeting, but still you did not get a little bit of the hints, right? But since you both are working full time for the companies, I'm very curious to know how do you both manage your times working for the open source software and then working full time as a company as well.
Priyanka, why don't you start?
I was going to say the same thing, but anyway, yeah. Well, I, I would say it is happening or it's possible because our employers, at least I know about Madhav as well. So our employers support us while we are working on the open source projects. So that's one of the very key things that enable us contributing to the upstream maybe more sustainably and regularly than other people who I believe find it hard doing it with their jobs, with their day jobs. So yeah, that is one of the reasons why we are able to contribute. And what was the other question? Sorry.
The question was probably around how did you manage your time so well working for the open source and working as a full time?
Yeah. So that happens because like you try to align your open source contributions, not just I'm not just talking about Kubernetes, maybe in general, anybody who is contributing to any open source project, you try to align your contributions towards your day job responsibilities as well. And so for me, I am part of SUSE as a Kubernetes integration engineer, and my role wants me to be there in the upstream project. Uh, Not necessarily maybe one area. It always grows with how our role grows in the company. But yeah, that is how you need employer support. You need time, paid time. Not really need, but if that is there, that is going to definitely be helpful um, towards balancing between your job and your open source contributions, and to do it while not even burning out. Um,
That's great. Mother, would you like to share something about this?
Yeah, so I would say I'm very privileged in that aspect. So my role is primarily to contribute to Kubernetes. So there are some responsibilities within VMware that all of us have in our team. But for the most part, our responsibility is for the community. So there is support in terms of areas you want to contribute to, but of course, um, it's not that you can contribute wherever you like on company time, because of course, wherever you are contributing, you need to show that this is something that is of value or is of use to your employer, and which is a valid point, right? Because they're paying you to do these things. Um, so justifying why your contribution is important to your employer and your employer's business is one of the more difficult things you tend to learn over time as an open source contributor. But uh, I would say, like, I haven't had to fight that fight as often because my role primarily involves open source. And coincidentally, I was part of the Kubernetes community, and through that, this happened. So, yeah.
This is great because I remember I on LinkedIn one of the person texted me that they're pretty much interested in contributing to the open source software, but due to the company they're working at, it's becomes very difficult, to manage the full time working at the company and then contributing to the open source software. That's really great. But let's get ahead and understand how did you both started with contributing to Kubernetes at the very first. It can be probably 2 to 3 years back, but how did you both of you get involved within the Kubernetes community for the very first time? Of course, you both have got overwhelmed with its nature, right?
I can go because I want to touch base on the point that you just said in the last section, that it's really hard when you are trying to contribute or trying to enter into a project when your employer is working on different things, and you have to find out time or apart from your day job responsibilities to contribute in any of the projects. So similar was the case for me. Maybe like 3.5 years back, I was working in a uh, startup company, and I loved my job, but my job required me to work. Uh, Most of my working hours were on the job, and um, I I was in a role, kind of a site reliability DevOps role. So you have to be there maybe usually more than your working hours because it was a fast growing environment. And that was also the time when I was trying to, first time when I was trying to participate into the Kubernetes project specifically. Um, I was very fortunate that there was a mentorship cohort happening, and DIMS was the one who was running it. So it was a cohort for SIG node reviewers. So they were trying to teach people to be reviewers for SIG node. And that was a time when I was not aware of anything really, like how the project is structured. And so I used to be on those calls at maybe 11 or 12 in the night, and they would be talking about uh, the code stuff. But apart from that, uh, using terms like SIGs or uh, uh, am I the only one? Okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so they will be talking all the terms that we usually nowadays hear in the upstream project, and well, none of those made sense to me. And long story short, I left and I just pinged in that group DM. I'm like, I'm not. I will join back later, and then I did not show up for a year straight. And now I understood that why it was hard that time, because well, I did not have time, and you can't do many things sustainability at one time. So I ended up moving jobs during that time as well. So I moved from a company that was not very open source centric to a company which was very much open source centric. So and during that time I was also working on my job on so I'm talking about Red Hat. At that time my employer was Red Hat, and I was working on OpenShift, which is very much a Kubernetes thing. So I got opportunities to read very Kubernetes like code, and I started to develop understanding of the code base. And then I after a year or so, I pinged them. I'm like, I have learned something, and I think I can start again. And again, I am very fortunate that I had people who are very supportive, who were very supportive to give you resources or give you help whenever you need it. So well, I received all those help, and I tried to start again. And yeah, I what I did was I just joined one of the meetings, whatever meeting that showed up on my calendar that time. It was Python command line CL, Python Kubernetes client meetings. And again, another fortunate thing happened. Those meetings were very light in attendance, so I was there with a few other maintainers only, and they were triaging issues. So I offered to help with some issues, and that's how I started again. So my first time was very much overwhelming. I remember I could not understand, people are talking about node and storage, and as a user I just don't know how node and storage and maybe something else, how does all those things work outside of Kubernetes. I know them working collectively, just one entity, which is Kubernetes. So yes, it is overwhelming, and it's very easy to just leave everything and go web. So you need support, but you need to. What I learned from that experience was you just need to stay there, and more than maybe learning by doing, you first have to spend some time by just learning from observation, just being there, and then assimilating things that people are talking about, and then find out something that will make your own way towards contribution. So that was my journey.
Awesome. Madhav, what about you?
So I started off as a student. I graduated in 2022. I started contributing 2021 or 2019 end, 2020 end over there sometime. So back then I was like, okay, I need to do something with my life. I need to do something with my career. I have no idea what to do. But then I also was aware that this thing called open source existed, and like there were, and it was pandemic back then, right? Like everything was shut down, and all meetups used to happen virtually. So I didn't have the high barrier of going and attending a meetup in person. I could do it from home. So like while classes were going on, I would be on some meetup. So I was like, at that point, my goal was, okay, I need to figure out what interests me. So I was like, I was attending different meetups. There was observability, then there was storage, then there were meetups around ML, meetups around blockchain. Um, None of that quite interested me. Observability was kind of cool. That back then I still find it kind of cool. But then like one random day there was this new contributor workshop thing that was happening, and Nikita, Navarun, and Divya were running it, and it was like a 3 hour long meetup because it's a workshop, right? So that goes on for 3-4 hours. And that time I had the final year college project stuff going on. So we were preparing for the paper and the reviews and this and that. And in between, I was joining and leaving that conference, that workshop. And that was pretty cool. Like, that was really interesting to me because like it was a really welcoming environment. The first thing. Then they were like, join this channel called InDev and all that. I did that. So the thing that got me into Kubernetes wasn't really the project itself because I didn't know much back then. What got me into it was like, okay, people are so nice and welcoming. This is so new to me. I hadn't experienced that thing ever because like, so I joined And I was like, okay, let's start learning about it. And then I got really into it. Like the project itself as a system, how it's designed, how it's architected, why it does things the way it does. That really, really got me excited. And I was like, I want to stick around here. But same as Priyanka, I used to join Node, SIG Node calls, API machinery calls. All of them were used to happen at like midnight for people in this side of the world, like India or APAC in general. Uh, I had no idea what was happening. And back then, DIMS used to run one-on-one mentoring calls. Uh, so I scheduled a call with him. I joined the call, and then my laptop died, and I was like, "Oh my god, what is happening?" So I joined the call with DIMS, and he said, "I told him all this. I'm like, this is happening. I don't know what to do. He's like, see, you're supposed to be a fly on the wall for some time, and I still tell myself that only for the reason that no matter how long you spend your time in the Kubernetes community, you will not know more than 30-40% of everything that's going on. And you're expected to be overwhelmed because this is work that has been done over, uh, I don't know now, 10 years, more than 10 years, uh, by multiple people across multiple countries, multiple companies, multiple perspectives, multiple issues. And there is so much diversity in thought and engineering that you are bound to feel overwhelmed initially. And it's just that overwhelm is so strong initially that it makes you want to leave, like I did initially. So did Priyanka, as she said, right? But the thing that you can rely on is the people. But you need to be careful about that. The reason being, when you ask someone for help, you need to justify that ask. You need to be able to show that you've done your work prior and you're not just asking for someone to hold your hand. Because although people would love to help you out from scratch, it's just that people don't have the time to anymore. And especially now more than ever, right? Like the economic climate is so dangerous in terms of your job. People really want to make sure that the time they spend on doing things that aren't of direct value to their employer is of most benefit. So if you go to someone for help, you need to make sure that you do your homework beforehand. So I actually had DM Priyanka when I was getting started. I'm like, how do I ask people for help? And she sent like a long essay, like do this, don't do that. I'm like, oh, this is great. I need to spend some time just reading through this and understanding it. So I did that, and it really helped. Like I was able to ask people for help, and it turns out you get a much quicker response on a public channel than on DMs. Um, so that's how I got started. I got started with Contribex. Nikita was putting up issues somewhere. I took it up. I had no idea. I'm like, you know what? We figure it out. Took it up. Difficult, of course, because you have no idea what's going on, but you stick to it. You spend some time. If you go look at statistics, it takes on average 3 to 4 weeks for a PR to merge. So if that is enough frustration time for you, then you are going to give up. And so this is something to keep in mind. It's going to take time, but it's also okay because the entropy you're trying to fight while trying to figure stuff out is what is going to give you knowledge. And that's pretty much the key to getting into any community for open source. So yeah, started with Contribex, got into Node, uh, pivoted into API machinery, and then architecture and stuff like that.
So all these things involved coding as well, right? So you code mostly in the Golang too.
No. So at least for me, I mean, I started with Golang, yes. But then there's also Python stuff, which Priyanka talked about. I did a lot of Bash contributions. Uh, I did non-code contributions as well. For example, helping organize these meetings that you're doing, right? These are great contributions because it's spreading knowledge and spreading experiences of people uh, who've been through some of these things. So that is also a good contribution. Documentation is, of course, great contribution. Helping with release planning, project management, those are all great contributions. But yes, most of the tooling, the Kubernetes project itself, of course, a lot of it is written in Go. So knowing Go might help.
Awesome. I remember when I started, I tried to get involved with the Kubernetes community. I don't know what, I messed up the settings of my calendar. I was getting links for the meetings, and I was like, which meeting is it? It was like SIG Node, SIG this, and I was like, I literally messed it up, and then I paused it for a while, and then I started contributing to again after a month, and that's when Dims sent me a lot of things on the chats, out of which I crafted one blog as well. So he mentioned me 3 points, like, first of all, do your homework. I literally used to ask him very basic questions around, what will happen if I do this thing? And the only response that I would get is, try it and you will get your answer. Second thing that he mentioned to me was, uh, in the open source software, the information is widely spread. So learn this skill of empowering the information, how the information is structured. You should be able to get right information at right point of time. And the last one was, teach and learn. So whatever you are learning, teach it to some people as well. So you mentioned about the DIMS. I have this question about around DIMS in the rapid fire as well. Spoiler, never matter. So let's get ahead and take a look at what exactly is SIG contribute experience, since you both have been the technical leads for it. So would you even mind telling me, not me, but would you mind telling us what exactly is SIG at the very first place? Because of course, not many of the folks who are watching this might be aware of SIG as well. So if any one of you wanted to share the screen or things like it can be conveyed very betterly, feel free to do that as well.
Go for it, Priyanka.
I would not share my screen because I was not prepared. But I have the SIG-Contribex charter on my screen because I do not recall it line by line or word by word. But start with, well, SIG stands for Special Interest Group, and for anybody starting with any project, it's not a terminology used just in Kubernetes. It's a terminology used project wide, the big projects, any big projects which require dealing with multiple parts. They usually will organize the people who are contributing or the work into groups, and they will call it special interest group. Basically, a group of people focus on one specific area, or a group of specific area, or an umbrella group of specific stuff. So that is what SIG in lame words means, not lame words, sorry for the use, in easy words means. Um, Now, what is SIG Contribex? So SIG Contribex stands for Special Interest Group Contributor Experience, and I'll now read it from the charter. That it is to help, before reading, it is to help everybody, basically the entire Kubernetes community, to give everyone a welcoming experience, to give everyone the resources that they need to run the project. That's the responsibility of SIG Contribex. Now, that what is required, that keeps changing, that definition keeps changing. It could be tooling, it could be just maybe communication, like shepherding communication, or maybe helping people to come on decisions, or uh, mentorship, providing mentorship, or running the entire infrastructure that will help other people to do their job. Or inviting other people, or like handling people who are joining the org, new people joining the org. So all those stuff collectively and more uh, comes under the realm of SIG Contribex. Yeah. So it is both, well, it is both technical, like, because you need to maintain tools and you can't do them every time one by one. So you have tools to do these job as well. So that's where the technical side of SIG Contribex comes in. But most of it is managing people management, and which is, I believe, more hard than any technical job, because you need to, because the core of the SIG is to keep like a peaceful environment and a helpful environment and a welcoming environment. And how you do that is not by hurting anyone's sentiments and anyone's feelings. So people management is one of the core responsibilities of SIG Contribex. And yeah, that's what I recall. Madhav, do you want to add?
No, I think that sums it up pretty well. So I think one of the now at least going forward, especially considering where Kubernetes is at as a community and a project, Contribex is one of the most important SIGs, at least from the community point of view. The reason being that Contribex is the SIG that helps with the sustainability aspect of the Kubernetes project. So when I say sustainability, what do I mean, right? At a certain point, uh, just getting more contributors or just getting more contributions in general might not be enough. There might be times where the existing people who have been contributing for a while leave. There might be times where they might burn out. There might be times where so many things can happen. So we need to ensure that there is a continuity of people contributing, there's a continuity of people growing in the community, and there's a continuity of people who can make things work for the Kubernetes project. And that is something that is being discussed very heavily within the SIG as of now. So Contribex helps with the sustainability aspect of it. So for things like running elections for the steering committee or for SIGs, that's one thing. There are multiple sub projects, and there is comms, right, which is communication, which Caston Fields, who's one of the chairs for contributor experience leads. So they help spread the word of anything important or of notice that is being done in the Kubernetes community that people need to know about. Then there is, of course, some of the other technical aspects, which are maintaining the commands which contributors use to interact with PRAO, which is the Kubernetes CI system. So things like, if you come to the project, you might see things like /approve, /LGTM, /hold, even things like /meow, stuff like that, right? Like these are things also which Contribex helps maintain. And then there is also like other aspects to it, which is automation for inviting people to the Kubernetes org, removing people from the Kubernetes org, deciding when to remove, who to remove, auditing all of that information, maintaining statistics for contributors and developers, all of these things. So Contribex is a wide spreading SIG. It's not a vertical SIG. There are vertical SIGs, for example, auto scaling, right? Auto scaling focuses on the auto scaling part of Kubernetes. So it focuses on that aspect. Contributor experience cuts across multiple areas. Now, this might be overwhelming because you might think that, okay, there's so much to do. What do I do? But it's also a great opportunity to find your niche within the SIG. So if you're great at writing, you have comms. If you're great at helping set up projects, you have things like people who help bootstrap projects. So you can help out with elections. You can help out with uh, GitHub management, for example. You can help out with event management if you're into that. You can help out with the maintenance of the technical aspects that I said. You can help out with Slack automation, Zoom automation, YouTube automation. There's just almost always a ton of work to do. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But on a high level, yeah,
I'll just
that's what it
add
is.
one thing, maybe summarizing what Madhav said, and I recalled. Uh, Basically, the work of SIG Contribex is to remove responsibility from people and put them on processes so that people might move or might be replaced by another set of people, but we have processes that we can rely on. So that's mostly the work of SIG Contribex, and it keeps growing. We keep having more and more use cases, and then SIG Contribex, their responsibility is to make processes and remove that overhead from only a few people. It's to, again, not burn them out, and also to welcome other people, and to overall have the sustainability of the project in place, and not just sustainability for growth as well. So yeah, sustainability and growth, that's the major goal of SIG Contribex. Yeah.
I see. Uh, Madhav also mentioned about the writing as well. So, if any one of you want to get involved with the writing as well, so there's this sub project of the SIG Contribex called as SIG Contribex Comms, and there's an initiative that is being going on is called as SIG Spotlight blog series, in which you generally have in which you generally take the interview of the leads and the chairs of the specific SIG, and then you craft a blog out of it for the Kubernetes community to get an understanding of what this SIG generally does, what are responsibilities of this SIG in a specific role. So if any one of you would like to get involved with the SIG Contribex, especially in the technical, feel free to join the SIG Contribex.com Slack channel on the Kubernetes Slack and attend the weekly meetings. And there are a lot of things to be done there as well. Um, I think you mentioned a lot of things as well, like YouTube automation, Zoom automation. But as a beginner, what should be my approach in order to get in, start working with the SIG Contribex? Because I remember Chris Short once mentioned to me that in open source community, no one is telling you to do this work. It's you who have to go places and find some work for yourself. So how can a beginner starting at maybe willing to start working at the SIG contributor experience can get involved and find their interest?
So I can start off briefly. Um, I think one important thing that would help is reading the README that you posted, right? Like the charter, not the charter itself, but the sub projects which Contribex helps deal with. Um, so once you at least know what these sub projects are, the first step would be to put up a message on the Contribex Slack channel saying, "Hey, my name is so and so. I am interested in XYZ sub project. And I'll be keeping an eye out over here and seeing if there are opportunities for me to help out. If you think of opportunities for me to, if you know of avenues that I can already help out in, please let me know." And cool. Next step would be to try and attend a meeting. If you can't, it's totally okay. They're all recorded, notes are taken. But meetings, at least of Contribex, is where like we go through each sub project uh, one at a time and discuss updates and things like that. And it's very easy to get to know where you need help over there. So just reading the notes or just watching a recording if you can't attend a meeting also is very helpful. So as soon as you do that, uh, great. Next thing would be, once now assuming you have something to work on after doing these two things, that is searching for what you want to do and reaching out. Assuming now you have something to work on already, um, of course, you can continue to search what you want to work on. It's highly likely that you'll find something from your own search rather than someone coming and giving it to you. So now, assuming you have something to work on, uh, it's going to take some time. It might be easy. Who knows? It might not be easy. I would prefer it not being easy. Uh, Not because it takes longer or whatever, but only because something that isn't too trivial almost always requires you to like go and search across multiple places. And the moment you go and do that, all of that search might not lead to answers, but it leads you to know where stuff is. It leads you to know where what lies. It leads you to know where what interacts with what, and like you gain more knowledge in trying to find that answer. So it's more interesting that way. If you don't have but of course, always reach out for help after you've done your initial set of work. Reach out on the Contribex channel, tag whoever you want to tag. Say that I did XYZ, I'm not sure what to do next, or maybe I'm lost. Someone 100% will get back to you for sure. Uh, you can, if someone doesn't get back to you, you can reference that message and put up one more message. You can keep doing that until someone gets back to you. But you are more than welcome to ask for help as well. Uh, I mean, this is a general approach for any SIG, honestly. It's not just Contribex. But for Contribex, the reason I suggested the meeting part is because we go through each sub project one by one. Because that's how we have so many, and it cuts across multiple things. So meetings are probably a good idea to look at. If not attend, you can just take a look at the notes if you want. And yeah, that also helps. Taking down notes in the meetings, volunteering to take down notes is also a great contribution, by the way. So works. Priyanka.
You already covered most of it. I just want to emphasize on one thing. reading is very important. Like before you go and ask your question, read stuff, like Madhav mentioned. One of the things that you can start with is the SIG readme or SIG charter. But for example, we are anything, if you are talking about technical stuff, I would say reading code, or just reading information about that on internet. Do some reading, and again, that will not only help you maybe move a few steps further in whatever you are trying to solve, but it will also introduce to other things. One of the things that I have personally found helpful is, yes, Google is there or internet is there and all other search engine we have a very huge Slack, and you can also search across Slack. Try searching in the Slack itself, or specifically maybe if you're looking for a for something related to a certain SIG, maybe try searching there in the SIG channel, and you will most surely try to you will most surely get some references to maybe you are what you are already asking, or you might get something else that you can link your problem to, and then you can try to solve something for someone else or something like that. So just do some research, do a lot of reading. It's going to be helpful for the person who is going to help you back, because you will be going them with whatever you have already done, and uh, you will and for yourself you will be learning a lot more than what you actually intended to learn in the first place. So uh, reading is very helpful. um, and now that's not just only for SIG-Contribex. People, I have seen a lot of people who wants to not only contribute on the non-technical side but technical side. um, I would say everything is hard, but for technical thing, personally I want to give an advice that read a lot of code before maybe jumping into issues or anything like that. If you can get into a habit of reading code, um, that's going to take you l- many steps ahead, because people ask questions, but I believe try to find out they can find out answers in the code. Now it's not very hard. It's not just like you have to learn Go code or maybe Python code. If you can read maybe one language code, uh, it's usually a semantics thing. You can try to make sense out of other code bases as well. So that's what I would suggest for anybody, not just contributing to Kubernetes in general, any project. Uh, if you can get into a habit of reading code, that's going to help you with not just non-code contribution, because if you are reading code and that's not documented properly, you can add a documentation contribution to that. Or if you think like something is not explained properly in the document, you can you can explain that concept properly. Or if you think like you can maybe clean some logic or whatever, anything you can do to improve that code base, you can do that. And most of my first contributions in the Python client were those only, because the issues that I took, or I assigned myself that I'll work on them, did not make any sense. So what I was doing was I was trying to find out examples in the code repo, and I was just trying to run them locally, or build the project locally. And what I saw was, okay, there are few examples broken, or there is this broken, and then rather than fixing what I was supposed to fix, I actually created more issues, and then I added fix to them. So I would say don't focus on growing right away. That will happen with your learning. Learn a lot. Try doing things, try learning on your own, and then one of the things that will help you is, like Madhav said, show up in meetings. So show up in meetings, make yourself known, so that people know who to reach out to when they need help on certain things that you are showing interest on. So you do not really have to be on meetings. Maybe you can send messages in the Slack channels, but uh, make yourself known among the group of people who are working on things that you want to work on, so that they can come back to you when there is something. So yeah, those are a few things that I would also
I,
add.
that's what Dim says. Do your homework first, right? That's a summary of getting involved in any project, I guess.
Yep, correct.
Awesome. I think it's getting a little bit of late, but before ending this, I have five rapid fire questions for each one of you. So it might be related to the SIG Contribex, it might be related to the kids community, or it might not be. But I am pretty much excited, and let's get started with Madhav. So you have to answer like it very quickly. The first thought you get is will be the answer, right? So
Mhm.
the most recent book that you have read.
It's called Build by John something. I forgot the author, but yeah.
Your top three inspirations in tech.
Uh, Nikita Raghunath, Mark Brooker, and Josh Hellerstein. Their name is. Okay.
Okay. Um, one word to describe DIMS.
Oh, everywhere.
Okay. Toughest part of getting involved with Kubernetes community.
Imposter syndrome.
Three contributors whom you would like to give a shout out to.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh, there are so many. Oh my God. There is Meha Bhalodia. I don't know if you know her. There's
Yeah.
Meha, of course. There is uh, Faika Ansari, who's been doing a lot of great work with SIG Spotlight blogs. There is, I mean, this is the top of my mind, but Carlos, who's from SIG Release, has been like so helpful with uh, some Go related work that's happening in the community right now. There is, of course, folks like you who are evangelizing all of this. So thank you for that. Um, there are so many on my mind, but it's just like, okay, maybe
Awesome.
maybe for another time.
The best part of the KCD Bengaluru.
Oh, people for sure, meeting people.
Okay. All right. I had six questions, but let's get to Priyanka and understand your thing. What was your first job?
Um, a DevOps engineer intern. Actually, no, I was a outreach intern. That was my first paid job. Um,
See, the next conference you're targeting to speak at.
KubeCon है maybe.
The best part of your job.
Opportunities to learn. I don't know almost a lot of stuff that I'm participating in, and it's a lot of things to learn. So learning opportunities and meeting people around the world.
I see. Which SIG would you go for if not Contribex?
Uh, Maybe release because I was there for a while. Yeah, so I would go back there and maybe explore other regions.
Again, same one. Three contributors whom you would like to give a shout out to.
Um, I want to give shout out to Brad McCoy. He is in the release comms team right now, and I think he's the lead. And they're doing a fabulous job at the ways they are using to communicate the status of different things going on in the release. They're using doodles and other posters, and I'm really loving whatever they are doing. This is great work that they're, and I've not seen that kind of medium that anybody else has used. I'm not saying things were not good. Everybody comes out with very innovative ideas, and I really loved what Brad McCoy and team is doing. Nikita, more than helping with technical stuff, she helps you just stay there and make you feel that you are supported. So a big shout out to Nikita. Well, I don't. There are so many, but I want to give a big shout out to Madhav as well. I learn a lot from him. he is somebody I learn a lot of professionalism from, and how to talk nicely, how to make yourself, uh, how to say, while you are in a group, how to make your voice heard, not in a rude way or anything way, but in the most gentle, in the most nicest way. um, yeah, I learn a lot from Madhav. These are the few things that has maybe I have learned from him recently, but I have worked with Madhav, not directly in the same team, but parallel teams, and from as far as I have known him, I've always been learning from him. So yeah, a big shout out to Madhav and more people. But yeah, three you asked.
Awesome. I remember I had a chat with some of the folks who were present at KCD Bangalore, and they told me that they interacted with Madhav. And it was very nice talking to him as well. The way he speaks, and again, you are speaking as well. Madhav, what's that quality of yours? I mean, I have not spoken to you in person, but would you mind telling us why is it that thing like that?
I honestly have no idea what is happening. I'm almost always very conscious about like how I'm talking or what I'm saying or anything like that because it's uh, most of us are not native English speakers, right? So I think in Gujarati in my mind because that's my mother tongue, and then I translate into English and then I talk. I'm almost always very conscious about what I say because I don't want it to be misinterpreted or come out as rude. So maybe the over paranoia is what people like. Uh, but I honestly don't know. And thanks, Priyanka. That was very sweet of you to say. So
You
thank you.
balance your over paranoia and your other things. You do not sound like you are keeping things to yourself. I mean, I love how you represent yourself, and not just like meetings, even in uh, text communication channels. Generally, I learn a lot from you.
Yeah, thanks. I think so. That part about representing yourself that takes time for everyone. Um, and we have, I think, now enough people, at least like who we've seen grow into leadership positions from our area, from our regions, from our backgrounds, uh, that it sort of instills enough confidence to make sure that our voice is heard because all of us have an abundance of things to contribute to in any conversation or in any community, as does everyone else. But making sure that you are sort of speaking up and that fear of being wrong is not there takes a lot of work, and it's owing to the fact that we have people like Priyanka, Nikita, Barun, Dims, people who've shown us that it's okay to be wrong in public. So that helps. Yeah.
Awesome. That was very good suggestions given by you. And I think that's it. That was most of the parts we have covered, how to get involved with the SIG Contribex. Before ending this, where can the audience get connected with you all?
I think the best way, if somebody is looking to talk about Kubernetes, would be Kubernetes Slack itself. Um, and I go by username P Saggu. Um, Other than that, I am not usually, I'm sporadically active on social media. So if somebody wants to reach out to me, they can write me an email. Um, that would be Priyanka Saggu 11929 @gmail.com. Yeah.
Yeah, Kubernetes Slack is the best way. At least like I'm most responsive over there. Email, of course, you can. Twitter also, I'm kind of responsive. But Kubernetes Slack, the display name which is there, that's my handle on the Kubernetes Slack as well. So slack.kh.io. Yeah.
Got it. And I'll be sharing the links in the description as well. So if any one of you would like to reach out to these people or get involved within the community, all the links, Slack channel link, everything has been mentioned in the description. So you can just go there and check that as well. Again, thanks to both of you for joining it. It was very good talking to you, and especially the way you have structured it. Especially the best part of today was the way you have told both of your journeys, and especially the rapid fire. It was good. I loved
Thank you,
exploring
Nitish,
it.
for organizing this. I think having these honest and candid conversations is very important. And especially talking about the places where you might have gone wrong is even more important. So avenues like this allow us a chance to communicate that. So thank you for coordinating, organizing, hosting, and asking these great questions. Hopefully it helps someone. I know whenever I talk about these things, it helps me also because it like reminds me of everything that's happened, the stuff I need to do and stuff like that. So thank you, Nitish.